Hello there. This is Jonathan McKenzie with Karen Tapia interviewing uh, February and September 2001. Um, so I have 10 questions for you, Karen. Um, are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
Okay. So will you introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Karen Tapia. I 60-year-old retired police dispatcher. I have four children, three daughters, one son, six grandchildren, three girls, three boys, and I live in near Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm Native American. Um, I like to sew. I make ribbon skirts and Navajo skirts and anything else that catches my fancy. I like to camp. I like to spend time with my kids and my grandkids. I love to travel and I enjoy my church time. And I don't know, was there anything else I can add to that?
Oh, that's great. You're doing great. Thank you for that. Um, where and what were you doing on September 2001?
On that day, I had gone to work, and at the time, my husband was going to take me to work and he's dropping me off. And we heard on the radio that there was an attack on one of the Twin Towers. And at the moment, I thought, what? This is a joke because they used to play jokes on the morning radio shows. And I really thought it was a joke that the radio station was saying, was giving, putting on the radio. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way. Couldn't be. So then I get dropped off at my work. I go into my office and all my coworkers are in front of the TV in the conference room. And I actually saw the clip of an airplane fall going into the plane. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was shocked that that could happen. I was shocked that I was just shocked. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know who could do this. I was just had so many questions and I was confused. And ended up sitting there watching the TV for a while. And then finally, I decided I guess I got scared enough that I called my husband at the time and told him, we'll pick up the kids at school, bring them home, and just stay at home together. So that was that. And then later on in the day, being that I worked at a police department, I figured that I was needed at work. People were going home. The, the school I was working at, but everybody, they canceled all classes and it just got very quiet. People were going home. And I was more concerned that my family, being that we lived close to an Air Force base, I was just like, I think I need to go home and just be with my family. So I ended up also leaving and going home too. And that was how that first part of the day went. When I got home, my kids were home, my family was all there, and I pretty much stayed glued to the TV all day. Just trying to figure out what was going on, why it was going on, what was happening, and trying to get answers. So that was my day.
Okay. All right. Um, do you remember how you felt when this event happened?
I was confused. I was shocked. Later on in the day, after that wore off, I got scared. I was afraid for the safety of my family. My youngest was probably 3 or 4 years old. and the oldest was probably in high school, like freshman or maybe a sophomore, something like that.
Okay.
And yeah, I just wanted my kids around me. I just wanted to be with my family that first day.
Gotcha. Okay. Were there any long-term effects that stuck with you since 9/11?
I think the long term effect was my patriotism. Before that event, I was not very patriotic. I took my country for granted. I was, I really took it for granted. I knew it was a good country to live in. I had a good life. Had my family. Um, it was, it was just taken for granted. After that event, that's when I realized that I was more patriotic. I was more appreciative of veterans. I respected the soldiers who were in the military a little more, or a lot more, actually. Um, yeah, I think that's the most that happened, the long term effect. Um, I don't think there was any other negative effects from that. Um,
Hmm.
I learned who Lee Greenwood
Oh yeah. Yeah,
was when I first heard his songs, and that was um, I've been a fan of his music ever since. Um,
cool.
I
Okay.
haven't, yeah, there's really no negative effects. Like, I was never not scared. I just had more respect and more confidence in our country that we could protect ourselves. That's probably a long term thing.
That's great. That's great that your patriotism increased dramatically.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
okay. What did you do after hearing about the attacks?
I was pretty much glued to the TV trying to find answers, gathering up my children. Um, I was I have three daughters. We were braiding each other's hair, watching TV. My son was just running around the house, just happy that everybody was home. Uh, I did, when we went outside, the streets were so quiet. And being that we live near Air Force Base, there was always the sound of airplanes flying. Well, also, we live near the airport. That day was eerily quiet, so quiet outside. It did not sound like we were living in a city. The streets were cleared, empty. Nobody was outside. The skies were quiet, and it was just very eerie. Almost felt apocalyptic in a way. um, but yeah, it was really strange. It was a strange day. It was a very strange day. Um,
Okay.
it was just, yeah.
Yeah, I remember my where I was living at was really quiet also, and I know what you mean by eerily quiet. But okay, moving on. How did your family react to hearing about the event?
Um, I guess they just stayed home. They didn't really ask to go anywhere or do anything. We stayed home. We, I I don't really know how they reacted. I'm sure they understood what was going on. They were still children, but old enough to understand what was going on the TV.
Mhm.
My two younger girls went into their room and they played. Older one was sitting with me on the couch. And of course, the little one, he was just running around. He didn't really understand. He was very, I don't know, 4 years old at the time,
Mhm.
something like that. Yep, I don't really know how they reacted.
Okay.
They were just, it was just a somber day.
Okay. Can you explain any images you saw that stuck with you?
To me, it's um, the flag, the U.S. flag. Um, that's seems to be the image that I remember the most from that day. Um, well, of course, what they showed on TV over and over was the airplane hitting the building and it crashing and the dust from the collapsing building and people running, people just covered in dust. They're all white and just their eyes and their lips were like, I guess from the wet, it was the only thing you could really see. Even their hair was covered in dust. And yeah, it was pretty traumatic. Untraumatic.
Yeah. Were there anybody you knew who was directly involved with the attacks?
Not during the attack. It's not until afterwards. Um, a good friend, a family friend, was in the fire, was a firefighter, and he went with a delegation from Albuquerque. They went to New York to help look for bodies at the site.
Oh,
I don't really know anyone at all that was involved, but it's the one firefighter who went out after the attack.
okay. Is there anything else you would like to share regarding 9/11?
Um, in the years since, I've probably watched a few documentaries about it, and I do believe that it was done by our country, by the CIA. Or I believe that the government of that day actually did it because they wanted to start a war. And and ever since then, I guess I don't really trust the government ever since. So, on the one hand, I don't trust the government at all. On the other hand, we do need to have the government for things to work in our country. Um, but yeah, I really believe that it was an inside job. They, I believe the president was in on it at the time, and that's just my opinion, and that's my belief at this time.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you very much for this interview, Karen. I appreciate your time and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. It was my pleasure.
Bye.